Ladies, let's get real for a moment. Most of us think we know men, but the truth? 97% of women are missing these critical psychological truths about how men think, feel, and act. Men are wired differently. They process emotions through action, not words. They crave respect and admiration more than we realize, and vulnerability isn't easy for them to show. If you know this, you hold the key to unlocking connection that lasts. Consistency in your behavior, understanding their silent cues, and recognizing the subtle ways attraction works can transform your relationships from surface level to soul deep. Today, I want you to see men not as puzzles, but as humans with needs, fears, and desires. When you grasp these 5 secrets, you step into power, insight, and influence in a way that's magnetic, compassionate, and profoundly transformative. When we talk about understanding men, the first truth you must face is this: men think differently than women. This isn't just a cliche, it's rooted in biology, psychology, and years of social conditioning. Women are wired for connection, for reading emotions, for picking up subtleties in conversations. Men, on the other hand, are wired for action. They process the world in a way that often looks foreign to women because they approach life with a focus on solving problems, taking action, and creating outcomes. This difference isn't about right or wrong. It's about understanding the framework they operate from. Here's what that means in practical terms. When a man withdraws, doesn't respond emotionally in the way you expect, or seems distant, it's not because he doesn't care. He's simply processing internally. Men tend to compartmentalize emotions. They'll think about what they feel, analyze it, and often only show it once they've made sense of it. Women, who often operate in real time emotionally, can misinterpret this silence as disinterest or rejection. Recognizing that this is a normal part of how men think prevents unnecessary conflict, doubt, or insecurity. Another key point is that men's brains are generally more linear. When faced with a problem, a man will often go straight to the solution instead of dwelling on the emotional impact. For example, if something goes wrong at work, he might immediately think, what can I do to fix this? Rather than, how does this make me feel? Women, conversely, tend to process experiences in layers, considering emotional context and relational implications. This doesn't make one better than the other, it just explains why misunderstandings happen so often. This difference also shapes how men communicate. Men are less likely to verbalize feelings unless prompted, and when they do, they might use fewer words and more action. That action could be fixing something, providing, or simply being present in a way that doesn't involve conversation. Learning to read these signs is critical. A man showing love through action may not say the words you want to hear, but the depth of his feeling is there if you pay attention. Women who understand this unlock a level of connection most never experience because they're expecting men to speak the way they do, when in reality, men have a whole different language. But here's the empowering part. Once you understand that men think differently, you can adjust your expectations, communication style, and approach. You stop taking things personally. You start interpreting behaviors accurately. You start building a bridge instead of getting frustrated at the distance. And here's something most women never realize. When you respect this difference and communicate in a way that aligns with it, men naturally open up, they respond with more consistency, and they feel truly understood. That is where real intimacy begins. If you want to deepen your relationship with a man, or simply understand why men act the way they do, the first step is acknowledging this simple truth. Men think differently than women. It's not about changing them or forcing them into your way of processing. It's about stepping into their world, seeing through their lens, and meeting them there. And when you do, you don't just gain insight, you gain influence, connection, and a relationship that works on a fundamental level. Understanding this is the first secret many women overlook, and mastering it changes everything. When it comes to understanding men, one of the most important truths many women overlook is that men communicate differently than women. Specifically, men often express their emotions through action rather than words. This is not a flaw or a lack of care. It is simply the way their minds and hearts are wired. While women are trained socially and biologically to articulate feelings, men are trained to solve, to do, to act. Their love, commitment, and care are frequently displayed in what they do rather than what they say. Recognizing this truth can completely change how you interpret a man's behavior and prevent countless misunderstandings. Think about it. A man might not say, "I love you" every day, but he might show it by fixing something in your home, taking care of a task you dislike, or making an effort to ensure your comfort. These actions are his way of speaking his heart. Many women, expecting verbal affirmation, may overlook or misinterpret these gestures. They might question his feelings, assuming silence or lack of words equals lack of interest. In reality, the man is often deeply invested, but is simply speaking a different language, one of tangible effort and practical support. This principle extends beyond gestures to decision-making and problem-solving in the relationship. A man will often try to solve a problem directly rather than discuss the emotional aspects endlessly. If something goes wrong between you, he may focus on fixing the situation instead of dissecting every feeling. Women, on the other hand, naturally seek to process and communicate emotions openly. This difference is where tension often arises. Understanding that action is his way of communicating allows you to appreciate his intentions rather than misread his approach. It's also important to note that men often fear vulnerability. For many, words carry the weight of exposing feelings they are not yet comfortable sharing. Action, however, is a safer, more natural way for them to demonstrate love and commitment. When you pay attention to these actions, you start to see the depth of his emotions, how he prioritizes you, the effort he puts into your well-being, and his willingness to invest time and energy into your life together. Learning to interpret these actions correctly is empowering. A man bringing you your favorite coffee, making time in a busy schedule just to be with you, or taking initiative in planning a date is not trivial. It is his way of saying, "You matter to me. I care. I am here for you." When women understand this, they stop demanding constant verbal reassurance and begin to recognize the quiet but powerful ways men express love. This understanding reduces frustration, builds patience, and strengthens trust. The key takeaway is this: words are not the only measure of a man's feelings. By observing actions carefully, you tap into a richer, more accurate view of his emotions. You learn to appreciate the subtleties of his care, and you start to communicate with him in a way that resonates naturally with his mindset. Understanding that men speak through actions is a game changer. It allows you to see love in motion, to respond in alignment, and to create a bond built on recognition, respect, and real understanding. When you embrace this, relationships evolve from surface-level interactions to profound, meaningful connections where both partners feel truly seen and valued. Respect is not just a nice word, it is the foundation of how men operate in relationships. For men, respect is more than admiration or appreciation. It is a deep psychological need that drives behavior, motivation, and emotional investment. When a man feels respected, he feels empowered, confident, and willing to open his heart fully. When he feels disrespected, ignored, or undermined, he often retreats, shuts down, or withdraws emotionally. Understanding this principle is crucial for women who want to build strong, lasting connections with men. Respect is shown in both words and actions. Simple things like valuing his opinions, listening without judgment, acknowledging his efforts, and trusting his decisions communicate respect more powerfully than any praise or flattery. It is important to recognize that men often equate respect with competence and confidence. When a woman shows that she trusts him, believes in him, and appreciates his contributions, it signals that she honors who he is at his core. This encourages him to show up, to protect, to provide, and to invest emotionally in the relationship. On the other hand, criticism, sarcasm, or undermining his choices erodes a man's sense of respect. Even seemingly small dismissive gestures, a sarcastic comment, rolling your eyes, or questioning his decisions publicly can chip away at the foundation of trust and emotional closeness. Women often don't realize that men are wired to internalize these signals. A man might not express his hurt in words, but his behavior will reflect it. He may withdraw, become defensive, or emotionally check out. That's why understanding the importance of respect is transformative. It allows women to create an environment where a man feels safe, valued, and motivated to invest fully. It's also important to note that respect and attraction are intertwined. Men are naturally drawn to women who honor themselves, honor their boundaries, and honor his efforts. Respect doesn't mean agreeing with everything he does, but it means communicating disagreement with clarity, maturity, and grace. It means engaging him in ways that validate his dignity while still being true to your own perspective. This balance is essential for a healthy, thriving relationship. Respect is not one-sided. A man who feels genuinely respected is more likely to reciprocate by showing respect in return through care, loyalty, and emotional openness. Respect becomes a feedback loop, creating a positive environment for communication, intimacy, and trust. Understanding this dynamic gives women power. By consciously practicing respect, they encourage men to rise to their best selves and engage deeply in the relationship. The lesson is clear: respect is not optional, it is fundamental. It is the language that speaks directly to a man's heart and mind. When you treat him with respect, you do more than improve his confidence, you strengthen the emotional and psychological bond between you. You create a space where love, trust, and commitment can flourish naturally. Women who grasp this principle gain insight into the deeper workings of men, empowering themselves to build relationships that are not only passionate but deeply resilient, grounded in mutual honor, understanding, and profound connection. One of the most powerful truths about men that few women truly understand is that emotional vulnerability is rare. Society, upbringing, and even biology shape men to hold their feelings close, to appear strong, and to avoid showing what they consider weakness. From a young age, many men are taught to man up, to solve problems on their own, and to keep emotions contained. This does not mean they don't feel deeply. It means they've learned that showing vulnerability is risky and often misunderstood. For women who want to connect on a profound level, recognizing this is critical. When a man opens up emotionally, it is not casual. Every word, every gesture, every confession carries weight. Men are deliberate in their vulnerability because it requires courage. They are exposing their inner world, the fears, doubts, and emotions they usually keep hidden. This is why a man's rare moments of emotional openness are so significant. If you understand this, you will see beyond the surface and recognize when he is truly sharing from the heart, even if it seems minimal compared to how women express feelings. The challenge for women is patience and awareness. Many expect men to verbalize emotions in the way women do, constantly, with details, with repetition, but men are different. A man may express his vulnerability through action rather than words. It might be protecting you, making sacrifices for your comfort, or taking time to prioritize your needs. These acts are often a form of emotional exposure, a silent communication that says, I care, I feel, I am committed, even if he cannot articulate it fully. Recognizing this distinction is key to understanding and appreciating his emotional depth. Encouraging a man to be vulnerable requires creating a safe, non-judgmental space. Criticism, ridicule, or pressure to open up too quickly will only push him back into his shell. Instead, showing empathy, validating his efforts, and gently encouraging expression allows him to lower his guard naturally. This is not about forcing conversations. It's about reading the cues, honoring his pace, and responding in a way that makes him feel understood. Over time, this trust builds, and a man begins to reveal the layers of himself that most people never see. It's also important to remember that vulnerability and strength coexist. Men often equate emotional openness with weakness, but the truth is the opposite. It takes tremendous courage to share one's inner world. Women who understand this can see strength in moments where others might see hesitation. By appreciating these moments and responding with patience and respect, women empower men to embrace emotional honesty, which strengthens intimacy and deepens connection in ways that superficial gestures never can. Understanding that emotional vulnerability is rare transforms relationships. It shifts your perspective from frustration or doubt to insight and appreciation. It allows you to recognize the subtle ways a man is expressing feelings, even when words are scarce. And when you honor these rare moments, you create a bond built on trust, courage, and mutual respect. This knowledge is not just enlightening, it is empowering. Women who grasp this principle gain the ability to connect with men on a level that is profound, authentic, and transformative, opening doors to intimacy and loyalty few ever experience. Consistency is one of the most overlooked yet powerful aspects of understanding men. While passion, excitement, and grand gestures can capture attention, it is consistent behavior that builds trust, security, and long-term connection. Men notice patterns more than moments. They are highly attuned to reliability, whether in their own actions or in the actions of those around them. For a woman who wants to influence, connect with, and sustain a meaningful relationship with a man, understanding the value of consistency is essential. Men are wired to respond to patterns. They find comfort and emotional stability in predictable behavior because it signals trustworthiness and reliability. When a woman is consistent in her communication, energy, and actions, it reassures him that she is genuine, dependable, and emotionally safe. In contrast, inconsistency, mixed signals, unpredictable moods, or fluctuating attention creates confusion, anxiety, and emotional distance. A man may withdraw or become hesitant to invest if he feels he cannot anticipate how his partner will respond or what to expect. Understanding this principle allows a woman to cultivate an environment where a man feels secure enough to show up fully. Consistency is not about being rigid or robotic. It's about aligning your words, actions, and energy in a way that demonstrates reliability and trust. For example, if you say you care about his dreams, follow it with support through encouragement, time, or effort. If you promise attention and engagement, deliver it regularly. Small, consistent gestures like checking in, expressing appreciation, or showing up when it matters often mean more than occasional grand displays of affection. Men perceive these patterns and internalize them as evidence that you are someone who honors her word and respects the relationship. Another crucial point is that consistency also applies to emotional regulation. Men are sensitive to emotional energy. If a woman swings between extremes, being overly distant one day and intensely attentive the next, it can be destabilizing. Consistency in emotional tone, reactions, and approach allows him to feel safe expressing himself without fear of unpredictable judgment or rejection. Over time, this stability encourages him to invest emotionally, communicate more openly, and act in alignment with his intentions. Consistency also strengthens attraction. While excitement may spark initial interest, lasting connection comes from knowing that someone is reliable, present, and predictable in their love and support. Men are naturally drawn to women who demonstrate that they can be counted on, not just in words, but in daily behaviors. They feel secure, respected, and understood, which deepens emotional intimacy and fosters loyalty. In other words, consistency is a silent but powerful language that communicates commitment, reliability, and trustworthiness. Mastering consistency is about understanding patterns, aligning actions with intentions, and creating an environment where a man feels safe, valued, and confident in the relationship. It is not about perfection or rigidity. It is about reliability, authenticity, and presence. Women who grasp this principle unlock a profound advantage in their relationships. They cultivate emotional safety, trust, and respect in a way that draws men closer and strengthens bonds over time. When consistency becomes the norm, relationships evolve from uncertainty to stability, from doubt to deep, lasting connection, and from surface-level engagement to profound intimacy. When it comes to men, attraction is rarely just about looks. Yes, physical appearance catches attention, but what keeps a man genuinely interested goes much deeper. It is psychological. Understanding this is one of the most powerful insights women can gain. Men are drawn to subtle cues, energy, and behavior that communicate confidence, emotional intelligence, and uniqueness. The way a woman carries herself, expresses herself, and interacts with the world sends signals that speak directly to a man's subconscious mind. When you understand this, you realize that attraction is not something you need to chase. It's something you naturally cultivate through awareness and presence. Men are wired to notice patterns of energy and behavior more than explicit declarations. For instance, a woman who is calm, confident, and self-assured signals stability and independence, which are highly attractive traits. Similarly, someone who is authentic and expressive in small ways, through laughter, curiosity, or passion, creates an invisible pull that draws a man in. Men respond to emotional energy far more than words. They pick up on subtle body language, tone of voice, and the way you interact with others. These psychological cues communicate your value, your personality, and your emotional availability, all of which play a critical role in attraction. It's also important to understand that men are drawn to challenge and intrigue. This doesn't mean playing games. It means presenting yourself as someone with depth, interests, and boundaries. A woman who maintains her independence, pursues her passions, and expresses her opinions respectfully creates a magnetic presence. Men are naturally drawn to people who inspire curiosity, admiration, and a sense of connection that goes beyond superficiality. Psychological attraction is about demonstrating that you have a rich inner world and that your energy is worth engaging with. Attraction also involves emotional responsiveness. Men are sensitive to how they feel around a woman. Do they feel seen, understood, and valued? Do they feel excitement and positivity when interacting with her? These emotional signals are incredibly powerful. Women who recognize this can consciously create an environment that fosters attraction, not through manipulation, but through awareness of energy, presence, and connection. When a man experiences these subtle cues consistently, he becomes more emotionally invested, drawn, and engaged. Another key aspect is mirroring and emotional resonance. Men are often attracted to women who resonate with their values, energy, and emotional state, while still maintaining individuality. This balance of connection and independence strengthens psychological attraction. A man feels that bond without it being forced, and it increases his desire to invest in the relationship on a deeper level. This is why a woman who understands and respects the psychological dynamics of attraction holds a distinct advantage in relationships. Understanding that attraction is psychological transforms the way you approach men and relationships. It shifts the focus from surface-level appearances to energy, behavior, and emotional resonance. It teaches that connection is created in subtle ways, through presence, confidence, authenticity, and the emotional signals you emit. Women who master this principle don't just attract men, they cultivate meaningful engagement, emotional investment, and long-lasting connection. This knowledge allows women to step into their power, create magnetic relationships, and experience intimacy that is profound, authentic, and transformative. So here's the truth. Understanding men isn't about changing them, manipulating them, or trying to fit them into a mold. It's about insight, seeing how they think, feel, and act, and responding in a way that builds connection, trust, and intimacy. Men are wired differently. They speak through action. They crave respect. Vulnerability is rare. Consistency matters. And attraction is psychological. When you grasp these truths, you step into a place of awareness and power. You stop taking things personally. You stop guessing. And you start interacting with clarity and confidence. Relationships transform when you meet a man where he truly is, understand his unspoken language, and honor the patterns that guide him. This knowledge isn't just about improving a relationship. It's about creating connection that is profound, authentic, and lasting. Remember, when you understand these secrets, you don't just attract a man. You inspire him to show up fully, openly, and wholeheartedly.